So why is the IRS suddenly reversing course on ERC claims? I talked to a lot of business owners who have questions. Why is this moratorium in place? Why is there this slowdown? It seemed like in 2021, 22, 23, the ERC was very matter of fact, and all of a sudden everything came to a screeching halt. And so what happened was is that the IRS identified substantial fraud in the system. So you may recall in 23 that there were a lot of folks who were calling in and emailing and basically making the statement that any business in the US was eligible for the ERC. And as a result, a number of claims were filed either incorrectly, lacking substantiation, or without proper documentation. So that, well, the timeline is that in September of 23, the IRS put pause processing. They said, basically the system's broken. We have too many claims. We're not touching any of them, right? We're putting a moratorium on any new claims. And then in December of 2023, the IRS announced that they had identified 20,000 ERC claims that were filed by entities that were ineligible, right? Now, ineligible was a bit of an understatement because these entities either were not in existence during COVID, right? So if you remember, the ERC was a COVID-era tax benefit designed to compensate taxpayers for retaining employees during the pandemic if you met a certain set of criteria. So these entities that filed for the tax credit weren't even in existence during COVID. So pretty flagrant, if you ask me. So either they weren't in existence or they had no employees during this time period, right? So again, the employee retention credit, the first word of the credit is employee. These entities had no employees during COVID. So, these are 20,000 people who frankly were just making stuff up in the attempt to, frankly, as the IRS describes it, defraud the US government. And so they identified 20,000 of these claims in late December. And then in March of 24, the IRS announced over $3 billion of ERC claims that were under criminal investigation. So on top of the 20,000 claims from December, there's now 3 billion ERC claims that were fraudulent and were under not civil, not, hey, I made a mistake, a position that I can't substantiate, but $3 billion of criminal investigations. And then about the same time, the IRS announced, increasing focus on compliance, on a focus for what they call aggressive promoters, folks who were basically saying that, hey, any entity could go out and claim this tax credit, just, sign up with me and it will get you the money. So that is why the IRS is reversing course. So, well, what does that mean for you as a taxpayer, a legitimate business owner who filed a legitimate claim and is now sitting here kind of stuck in the in-between? So the first thing that we recommend is that you go back, and the IRS recommends this as well, you go back and you review your documentation. You understand the rules related to the ERC, and not just the rules, but the documentation that you have that supports the position that you're taking on your tax return. So internally with our firm, we have what's called a narrative impact analysis report. That narrative compliance report is a critical part of the overall compliance package. And that includes things like the list of all the mandates that you were required to operate under. And not just the list of mandates, but what was the impact? We call it impact analysis. We're analyzing the impact of the mandates. What was the impact that those mandates had on your business operation? So one of the key questions they talk about in the notices which govern the program is, did these mandates result in a reduction of a taxpayer's ability to operate an ordinary course? And if it did, it was more than a nominal impact on its ability to operate a normal course, then the taxpayer is eligible. However, it's up to the taxpayer to document that. It's up to the taxpayer to retain those records, the taxpayer to provide those records in the event of an audit, in the event of a review, in the event the IRS requests that documentation. So the most important thing you could do during this time period is ensure you have good, solid paperwork that supports your position. I have other videos that talk about how you can check the status of your check to see if there's been a check issued, what to do if a check's been stolen, anything such as that. But that is the basic summary of why the IRS has stopped processing these and reversed course on the ERC. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Thanks.